daily energy intake by around 10 by 30%. In addition, a report from the World Health Organization also stated the school-based nutrition intervention helps improve nutrition status, especially among children who were previously undernourished. This means that although it's not ideal, a single nutrition meal per day can still have a real impact. In a poly context, this is an effective step to improve nutrition, particularly for students who do not receive sufficient food of home. I will continue. Can focus better every day and perform more consistently at school. This shows that MBG does not only increase nutrition once, but increases. Yes, please. Second speaker.
Okay, my sister from the government team. Based on your argument, I hear and understand. But allow me a question. So my question is, the proposition team is proud that school meals create new jobs for certain UMKM. But what's the point of the new jobs if kids they end up in the hospital from the mass frauding pushing or trillions of the budget get ambulanced by the city vendors?
I will continue my argument. This creates unstable energy and learning performance. MBG provide regular meals at school, which increases the consistency of nutrition intake. With consistent nutrition, students have stable energy and focus better every day and performance more consistent in school. Fourth, MBG is essential because it increases long-term development in Indonesia. Stunting, which is caused by long-term lack of nutrition, affects children's physical and cognitive development. According to national data, millions of children are still affected by the condition. This means without improving nutrition, the country risks having a generation that is productive in the future. However, by increasing nutrition through programs like MBG, students can grow better physical, develop strong brain function, and have better opportunity in the future. This shows that increasing nutrition today leads to increasing national development in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, from all the points, we can clearly say the connection MBG is essential because it increases student access to nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, how we as a government team, we truly agree this the motion today. That's all my argument. Thank you.
Thank you, second speaker from government team. Now it's time for the second speaker from opposition team to give your arguments. Your time will start now.
Okay, thanks for the chance given to me. I would like to give my point of rebuttal in relation to the argument delivered by the government team. So, my point of rebuttal is, ladies and gentlemen, the proposition claims that MBG improves learning ability because students are not hungry. However, this argument oversimplifies that education problem. Education outcomes depend on many factors such as 1. Teacher quality, 2. Learning environment, 3. Teaching methods, and 4. Parental support. So ladies and gentlemen, food alone cannot solve educational inequality. That's all about my point of rebuttal. Let me continue my argument. So here I have 2 points supporting our position. That's why we really do disagree with this motion. So the first point is of high rise of inefficient implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, large-scale government programs often face serious administrative challenges. Indonesia is a geographically complex country with more than 17,000 islands. Providing daily meals to millions of students across the country requires 1. Food distribution system, 2. Quality control, 3. Monitoring of funds. Ladies and gentlemen, this process creates risks such as 1. Corruption, 2. Food waste, and 3. Poor food quality. Ladies and gentlemen, according to Transparency International, large public feeding programs often face mismanagement risks, especially when monitoring systems are dependency. Another important issue is long-term behavioral impact. When the government provides free meals every day, families may become less motivated to improve their own economic situation or nutritional responsibility. Many social policies Students saw that poorly designate a
BI,
program
please.
net no thanks. Dependency. Instead of the giving free food independently, government sought invest in nutrition education for parents, community farming programs, and poverty
please.
reduction. Yes, please.
Okay. So earlier in arguments, you said that taking equally plus explain and provide evidence that will make you reject the motion.
Okay, my brother, thank you for your question. I will answer your question. Ladies and gentlemen, another important issue is long-term behavioral impact. When the government provides their free meals every day, families will become less motivated to improve their own economic situation or nutritional responsibility. According to Transparency International, lunch public feeding programs often face mismanagement risks, especially when monitoring systems are weak. Let me continue my argument. So, ladies and gentlemen, I also have another argument in relation to the MBD. Ladies and gentlemen, the cost associated with providing free school lunch to all students in Indonesia can be substantial. Indonesia is home to over 217 million people and approximately 15 million students are enrolled in primary and secondary school across the nation. To provide free the nutrition lunch to these students, the government will need to allocate a significant portion in education budget to this invention. Ladies and gentlemen, the first major consideration is the raising high-quality food that brought affordable and nutritious Indonesian food the supply the difference. With a variety of local ingredients, rise of essential nutrients such as protein, vitamin, and mineral, would require substantial investment in food frequency and distribution. Additionally, there would be logistical with social and delivering by the meals and school, especially in remote and rural areas where transportation infrastructure may not be as developed. Furthermore, schools would not equipped with necessary facilities to bring and service the meals. This could involve renovating kitchens, hiring additional staff, and ensuring proper saturation standard. In terms of ongoing cost, the government would have to constantly fund the program taking into account inflation and the government student population. The long-term sustainability and the program will depend on the government's ability to allocate funds efficiently and effectively. So, ladies and gentlemen, based on the argument before, we are like to stand once again. They really do disagree with our motion today. So, ladies and gentlemen, based on the argument, based on the data and example that I have given before then, it is clearly to support. And ladies and gentlemen, another reason why free school lunch are not so important in the more pressing issues within educational system that immediate attention. For example, many students struggle with mental health issues and stress, anxiety, and depression. 16th, affect to ability to learn. Allocating research forward, improving mental health significantly affects their ability to learn. Allocating resources toward empowering mental health service, creating counseling programs, and increase psychological support for students who would like to yield better results in terms of academic performance and overall well-being than providing free lunch. Ladies and gentlemen whom I love, based on my argument, based on the data and example that I have given before then, it is clearly to support our position. That's why we really do disagree with this motion. That's all, and thank you.
Thank you so much for the second speaker from opposition team. Now it's time for the third speaker from the government team. to deliver your arguments. Time is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the time to given to me. And as a government whip, I will continue to explain more why we support the motion today. Ladies and gentlemen, as the government whip, I will summarize and reinforce why our team firmly support the motion. This House believes that MBG is essential to improve student need for nutrition. Throughout this debate, our team has consistently shown one clear idea. MBG is essential because it directly increases student nutrition, and this increase leads to better learning and a better future. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring you back to the core of the debate. Students cannot learn, cannot focus, and cannot develop properly without sufficient nutrition. And throughout our argument, the answer is clearly yes, no. Now, let me summarize our case into three main areas. First, on access to nutrition. Our Prime Minister has clearly explained that students come from different economic backgrounds. They create unequal access to nutrition. Some students receive proper strengthened by real data from Indonesia. Their stunting shall affect around 1 in 5 children. This proves that student nutrition is still a serious issue. Now, what does MBG do? MBG increases access to nutrition for providing meals directly at school. This means every student gets better nutrition, the gap between students is reduced, and access becomes more equal. Therefore, MBG is essential because it ensures that nutrition is not dependent on economic background. Second, on learning ability. Yes, please. Second speaker.
Okay, thanks for the chance given to me. Allow me ask a question. So my question is, can students just bring food from home? That's all.
Once again.
Can students just bring food from home?
So here I will answer the question you asked. MBG has been proven to significantly improve student concentration. Furthermore, it has also been shown to increase student attention and motivation to learn. This has caused a positive impact on the quality of student learning.
I'm so sorry. Your statement is right, but we strongly do disagree with your argument because
Okay, the speaker can continue the arguments.
I will continue my argument. Second, on learning ability. Our team has shown that nutrition directly affects learning. Students who lack nutrition filtered cannot concentrate, stronger to understand nutrition. Meanwhile, students with better nutrition have more energy, focus better, and participate more actively. Our Deputy Prime Minister has clearly explained that MBG increases the quality and consistency of nutrition, which leads to increases learning ability. No thanks. This is a direct relation. Increase in nutrition increases in learning performance. This means MBG is not only supporting education, but it is necessary condition for effective learning. That is why it is essential. Third, on long-term impact, our Prime Minister explained that nutrition affects student future. Our Deputy Prime Minister Stengel did by show that increasing nutrition today leads to better development tomorrow. In Indonesia, it's like stunting, so what happens with nutrition is not sufficient. Students who lack nutrition face developmental problems and have lower productivity in their future. But with MBG, nutrition increases development, improve, and future opportunities becomes better. This shows that MBG is not only solving today problem, but also increasing the quality of future generation. Ladies and gentlemen, if we cannot our argument, we can't see one strong and consistent logic. Student need nutrition to function. MBG increases that nutrition directly, increases nutrition improve. Ladies and gentlemen, here we, as opposition team, we agree with the motion. That's all my arguments. Thank you.
Thank you, third speaker from government team. It's time for the opposition team, third speaker, to deliver your arguments. You have 7 minutes, 20 seconds to speak.
Okay, thanks for the chance given to me, respected ladies and gentlemen of the jury, our beloved brother and sister from the government team. I stand here as the third speaker from the opposition team. Thank you for the third speaker from the government team. So, ladies and gentlemen, here I have third point, the support our position, why we really do disagree with this motion. Ladies and gentlemen, the first point is of root causes for temporary solution. The proposition believes that feeding students at school solves nutrition problems. But our team clearly demonstrates the malnutrition it causes by poverty, lack of nutrition education, food insecurity at home. Ladies and gentlemen, MBG only provides 1 meal per day, which cannot solve the broader issues of household nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, the second point is of economic efficiency. The proposition view of MBG as an investment. However, we provided some budgets call for programs with greater long-term impacts, such as improving education quality, poverty reduction programs, healthcare service. Ladies and gentlemen, in public policy, governments must prioritize the most effective use of limited resources. Ladies and gentlemen, the third point is of implementation and sustainability. Finally, we saw the MBG face serious risks: corruption, logistical difficulties, dependency on government aid. Ladies and gentlemen, without careful management, this program might become expensive but ineffective. Ladies and gentlemen, the opposition team has proven the major reasons why MBG is not essential. 1. It does not address the root causes of malnutrition. 2. It requires massive national spending with high opportunity costs. 3. It risks efficient implementation and social dependency. Therefore, while the intention behind MBG might be good, it is not the best or most sustainable solution. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, please.
Provide clear data why you reject this investigation, improve student nutrition.
Okay, thanks for your question. I would like to answer your question. So, ladies and gentlemen, the improving students' nutrition does not depend on MBG alone, and in fact, MBG is not the most effective or sustainability solution. Let me to continue my argument. So, ladies and gentlemen, here I have another argument that support our position why we really do disagree with this mission. Free school lunch might unintentionally promote a culture of dependence rather than independence. While the intention is to ensure that not students go hungry, it might also encourage students to rely on the government for the basic needs rather than teaching them how to plan, manage their own meals and resources. Encouraging responsibility and self-sufficiency are important like skill that will serve students well in the long run. Intent of having free meals provided, school could focus on teaching students how to budget, plan meals, and make healthy choices, which will provide them with valuable skills that will last lifetime. Ladies and gentlemen, moreover, providing fair lunch could create a sense of essential among students where they expect stress benefits without fully understanding the efforts and cost required to provide them. Teaching students to appreciate the value of food, the effort this goes into providing meals can help students become more conscious and responsive individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, a critical aspect of students' development is fostering healthy eating habits. Also, free lunch may seem like a good way to ensure that all students have access to nutritious food. It is important to remember. Yes, please, the first speaker.
Thank you. What is your response to students who are hungry while at school? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, my brother. I would like to answer your question. I'm sorry, my brother. I don't think so. I mean, based on the data, social aid program often face 10 to 13% leakage due to corruption and mistargeting. Let me to continue my argument. A critical aspect of students' development is fostering healthy eating habits. Free lunches may seem like a good way to ensure that students have access to nutritious food. It is important to remember that healthy eating habits need to be cultivated over time. Ladies and gentlemen, schools should place more emphasis on nutrition education, teaching students about the importance of a balanced diet, the impact of food on their health, and how to make healthier for causes. Ladies and gentlemen, by integrating nutrition into the curriculum and encouraging students to buy their own meal from home, schools can empower students to take responsibility of their health and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, moreover, providing free lunch might to always result in healthier food choices. In some cases, the meals provided might not meet the nutritional needs of all students, leading to poor eating habits. By encouraging students to take an active role in their own meal planning, school can scale the developmental habits that will benefit their health and quality of life. Ladies and gentlemen, providing for lunch might not always result in healthy food choice. In some cases, the meals provided might not the nutrition needs of all students, leading to poor eating habits. By encouraging students to take an active role in their own planning. So, ladies and gentlemen, based on the argument, ladies and gentlemen, here I have another argument. Another important issue is long-term behavior impact. When the government provides free meals every day, families may become less motivated to improve their own economic situation or nutrition responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, Based on our argument and evidence we have presented, it is clear that this motion is not merely an option but a necessity. Therefore, firmly oppose this motion. That's all, and thank you.
Thank you, third speaker from opposition team. Now it's time for both of your team to conclude all your arguments. We start with the government reply speaker to start with the conclusions. You have 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Good morning, respective educator, honorable opponents, and everyone present. As the reply speaker, I will show you clearly why our team wins this debate. At the core of today's debate, there is one simple but crucial question. Is MBG essential to improve student nutrition? Our team has consistently proven the MBG is not optional, not secondary, but truly essential. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you through the most important classic in this debate. Our team firmly established that nutrition is a basic and fundamental need. We saw that without proper nutrition, students cannot focus, students lose energy, and students fail to learn effectively. This means nutrition is not something extra, it is the foundation of education itself. Because before students can think, before they can analyze, before they can succeed, they must first be physically ready, and this comes from nutrition. Now, the most important question, why MBG? Why is it essential? Our team clearly saw that MBG directly increases student nutrition in a way that other solutions cannot guarantee. We explained the MBG increases access to food, increases the quality of nutrition, and increases consistency of nutrition intake. This is crucial because many students do not lack food completely, but they lack sufficient and consistent nutrition. MBG solves the problem directly. It does not depend on family income. It does not depend on external conditions. It provides nutrition at school every day for every student. That is what makes it essential. Without MBG, the increases in nutrition does not happen consistently. Ladies and gentlemen, our team does not stop at theory. We prove our case with real impact. We saw a clear and logical chain. MBG increases nutrition improves concentration and learning, and better learning leads to better long-term outcomes. This is not just logic, it is supported by real data. We bring evidence from global organizations and Indonesian data showing millions of students still experience lots of nutrition and issues like stunting still exist today. This proves the problem is real and requires direct solution. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you through the most important philosophy in this debate. Our team firmly established that nutrition is a basic and fundamental need. We saw that without proper nutrition, students cannot focus, students lose energy, and students fail to learn effectively. This means nutrition is not something extra, it is the foundation of education itself. Because before students can think, before they can analyze, before they can succeed, they must first be physically ready, and that comes from nutrition. Now, this most important question, why MBG? Why is essential? Our team clearly saw that MBG directly increases student nutrition in a way that other solutions cannot guarantee. We explained that in fact, this is crucial. Because many students do not lack food completely, but they lack sufficient and consistent nutrition. MBG solves the problem directly. It does not depend on family income. It does not depend on external conditions. So from the government side, we strongly believe in the motion today. That's all my reply speaker, thank you.
Thank you, reply speaker from government team. Now the opposition team, please give the conclusion of all your arguments. Your time starts now.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, respected the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, moderator, timekeeper, and our beloved friends from the government team. I'm reply speaker of the opposition team. Will give the conclusion to support our position. Ladies and gentlemen, here I have 6 points in data to support our position. That's why we really do disagree with this motion. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first point is of MBG does not solve the root cause of malnutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, malnutrition does not occur simply because students do not eat at school. The real causes are poverty, lack of parental knowledge about nutrition, and limited food access at home. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the data, according to UNICEF, children's nutritional status is mainly influenced by household income and parental awareness about health diet. Ladies and gentlemen, the second point is of opportunity cost and economy burden. Ladies and gentlemen, large national feeding program requires massive funding. Estimates suggest that the MBG program could cost hundreds of trillions of rupiah annually. Ladies and gentlemen, this creates a major opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means that when the government spends money on one program, it cannot spend some money on other program. Ladies and gentlemen, for example, that budget could instead fund scholarship for poor students, improve school facilities, and teacher training health service. So, ladies and gentlemen, according to World Bank Education reports, improving teacher inequality has a significantly large impact on student success compared to many other interventions. Therefore, investing heavily in MBG may not be most efficient policy. Ladies and gentlemen, we really do disagree with this motion because large-scale government program often face serious administrative challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, providing daily meals to millions of students across the country requires food distribution system, quality control, and monitoring of fund. This process critiques such as corruption, food waste, poor food quality. Ladies and gentlemen, the third point is of risk of social dependency. Ladies and gentlemen, another important issue in long-term behavioral impact. When the government provides free meals every day, families may become less motivated to improve their own economic situation or nutritional responsibility. So, ladies and gentlemen, many social policy studies show that poorly designated aid program may create dependency instead of improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, the fifth point is of root cause for temporary solution. The proposition believes that feeding students at school solves malnutrition problem, but our clearly demonstrate of that malnutrition is caused by poverty, lack of nutritional education, and food insecurity at home. Ladies and gentlemen, while the idea of providing free lunches to all students may seem appealing, it is not as essential as some may believe. The financial resources required to implement free school lunches could better spend improving educational quality. So, ladies and gentlemen, based on the data, based on the argument, based on the example, we really do disagree with this motion. That's all, and thank you.
Thank you so much, reply speaker from opposition team. Now that's the end of our third match today. Please give them applause for giving us such a nice performance. For all the debaters, thank you so much. Now you can go back to your seat and you can shake hands with your friends. Okay, before we continue with our last match today, we will have a 1 hour of lunch break. So you can have your lunch and please, you can return to this room after 1 hour. Thank you and enjoy your lunch.
Oke, selamat siang. Informasi dari cabang lomba debat bahasa Inggris untuk chamber terakhir kita akan mulai di jam 1.42. Jadi di jam 1.22 kedua tim tadi harap ke ruangan debat untuk pengambilan posisi dan mosi. Sekian dan terima kasih.